Here we go.
Hey, I believe we're live. Welcome to the very first live stream on the Prince of Queens live stream channel. I'm not expecting basically any viewers at the moment, but hopefully a few people will see the tweet. Because I only have like 111 subscribers, so it's probably going to be one of those where we have, if we get four, well, we have one viewer. Oh my God. But it's just probably going to be one of those where if we have four viewers, it's a success at the moment. But it's cool because it'll be saved, and I think that we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. And I want to start doing live streams on my live stream channel. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be here for. And I'm locked out of my main channel um, for the next couple months for live streams due to a completely unfair community strike. And I also can't upload any videos for the next, I don't know, like 10 days or so, maybe 9 days, 11 days, because of a second community strike that I got, which was not just unfair, but completely ridiculous. Like there was nothing even remotely hate speechy about the video, and hopefully that one's going to get overturned and I can upload videos again soon, I'm hoping. But in the meantime, um, I, as usual, have a bunch of stuff to say, and I randomly saw that my friend was having some drama with an old friend who has gone to the black bloc side, who has gone to the dark side, and has become, um, I guess, a part of Antifa, and seemingly has surrounded themselves with similarly fanatical people, which is sort of the nature of these kind of cult-like ideologies and groups. And I say cult-like instead of cult because people tend to think of cults as something that's a little bit more organized, like there's an actual living leader of it, and whereas cult like there's not necessarily a leader that you can pinpoint. And so yeah, but if people want to call it a cult like, it's mincing onions. That being said, you, Lyra, had that happen to you just, I think, today, and I had it happen to me last week with somebody that I've actually known since middle school, who kind of got wrapped up in it. And so figured you could tell your story about what happened, and then I can talk about my story and we can compare and contrast notes.
Well, the person that I got into an argument with today, this person has actually been on the Antifa side for quite some time, but it seemed like they were on the fence, and I was trying to actually save this person from going off the deep end, and apparently I just totally failed. If you actually want to bring up that post, if you can, in Facebook and
I
screen
can't
share it.
do that because it would dox me.
Ah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I don't even know how to do that. I've never actually hosted a YouTube video before.
Okay. Well, you. This
Because
is.
I could also just read out what I was saying, but I'm in the middle of typing
I no.
something
You
else
can
right now
screen
too.
share. It's not hard to do. So all you have to do is go to the window, the Google Hangouts window, and go to the far left with your cursor, and then you'll see the green icon with the arrow in it.
Hold on one second. I'm posting the link for this video into one of the Facebook groups that I'm into,
Okay.
so we can get some more viewers. Okay, so the green arrow.
Yeah, the green arrow that's below the
I
if you
think I just got it.
yeah, you double click on it and then it'll give you some options in a new window. Like
Do you see that?
yeah. And then I can present to everybody.
Let me get to my activity log so I can easily find this big light thing. Hold on just a minute. I have somebody calling my name from behind me.
Okay, while she's doing that, hi everybody in the chat. Hi Casey, hi Wolfen. Thanks for showing up to the first Prince of Queens live stream. It's a
Okay,
monumental
I
event.
just found the post that I posted all these screenshots into. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Continue on with what you were saying, and then I can go into this.
Well, no, let's go right into it. I was just saying hi to my chat.
Okay, so the my friend who will be redacted in black in these screen captures here, uh, I've known this person for quite some time. Like we were Occupy protesters together, and like we were both homeless at the time, and we were really close. This person helped me through a very hard time in my life. Uh, but they posted this meme today that's up on the screen now, and it's basically just a whole bunch of Antifa propaganda saying that if you're uh, participating in an Antifa event, cover your face and don't talk to people because the alt-right can work their magic to make you look like an idiot, even though they're doing that to themselves anyway. And they say down at the bottom, which is the important part and the part that I address in this big debate, it says this goes times 100,000 if you're white, instigating police violence at protests or riling up violent fascist shitheads at noble in the slightest when you ain't the one that's going to get stabbed in the ribs. So this was my original comment to it. I posted, I think it needs to be said that instigating violence, period, isn't noble in the slightest. I actually do agree with the intent of the meme that protesters should not give fodder for their opponents to edit into damning statements. However, Antifa's problem is not sound bites, it's the video footage of black blocs instigating violence that has turned public opinion away from Antifa. And yes, I actually do agree with the stated goals of the radical left. It actually gets cut off here in just a moment, but I remember about what I said. So I actually do agree with the stated goals of radical left activism, including Antifa, that all people deserve equal treatment regardless of genitalia, skin color, who you look for as a romantic partner, which, if any, imaginary parental figures you believe in. However, I disagree with the tactics of violent censorship and strong arm coercion that Antifa employs. Redacted in Black is actually the friend of mine that from a long time ago whose comment I was posting to. You were about to say something.
Oh, I don't know if sometimes when I listen, I go, huh.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, I have this like, and if there's like a mic by me, it sounds like I'm about to say something, and maybe I would have if I like but you know what? Keep going. I will save it for the end.
Hold on, I lost it. Damn it. I've got a lot of things going on right now, and I forgot that I'm sharing my screen.
Okay.
So Redacted in Black says bullshit. It's necessary to violently oppose Nazis. It's necessary to oppose, obliterate, threaten, assault, no platform, kill, genocidal fucking Nazis, no exceptions, no tolerance. That's fucked up right there. And I really should have stopped engaging with this person then.
And that was your friend who
That
said that.
is my friend. Well, used to be my friend.
Yeah.
Uh, to begin to compare anti-fascist violence to fascist violence is absurd and ignorant and inherently supportive and complicit with fascist violence. I am open to carrying, I am not open to principle. I am not open on principle to hearing arguments to the contrary. And this next one's what gets me. The fuck is instigating supposed to mean anyway? Like the
Yeah.
person doesn't know what the word to instigate means.
Yeah. Well, these people are they have literally been brainwashed. Like I don't think we're exaggerating anymore when we say brainwashed,
Oh, I know.
because they've been conditioned to believe that it's acceptable to redefine reality for so long that that they they will just take orders. Like
I'm
these
gonna
are people
hide this
who
screen for just a moment.
okay. There's these
Or
people.
oh, that took it away. Did that take the whole screen share away? I clicked the
Uh,
wrong thing, I think.
it's no, you're still technically screen sharing, I think. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
So these are people who have been conditioned to believe for a very long time that, you know, um, I mean, the bigger picture is that America is a horrible, horrible place built on exploitation and slavery and genocide, and that we're living in that system and that we're all trapped. And there's a way out and a utopian vision that we could potentially get into. And that whole like utopianism, based around intersectional feminism and communism, is what it really, ends up boiling down to. That's been around for a while. That's what those people were trying to condition these people to think like, and they redefined words like racism and basically any word, uh I've even had people say that white people cannot experience discrimination for being white.
I've
It's not
heard that one.
yeah, it's like it's not just
Well,
that white people cannot.
that one really gets me because before I moved to California, I had been a homeless white male for 16 years, being told that it was my privilege to eat out of a fucking garbage can.
Mhm. Yeah, it's I mean it's completely absurd, and yet, you know somebody says, well, white people can experience racism. I've experienced racism as a white person. And then somebody else says, no, you don't, because racism is power plus prejudice, blah, 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 blah. And then they
I
say, well, yeah, but I've been discriminated against as a white person. And then people will be like, well, discrimination really means blah, blah. Like they'll
well
redefine
when
everything to
when they
belittle.
start to go into that power plus prejudice bullshit, I stop them right there and say, no, what you're describing is institutional racism or systemic racism. That is just one facet of the overall concept of racism.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that whole aspect of it is a really huge conversation. But these people have been conditioned with these changing of definitions and stuff to believe that you know that the very nature of reality that we grew to trust, that everybody sort of grew to at least somewhat agree upon, like, okay, the world isn't perfect. You got to try to find a roof over your head. You got to try to find a way to get some money. You got to, oh crap, my food's here. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Sorry.
But yeah, like what Prince is saying, this is incredibly fucked up. Like when I posted this to Facebook, I actually said that a good friend of mine joined a uh violent cult and cut me off. And Antifa really is a cult. They have an indoctrinating rhetoric that they have that is almost as like stupid as any other religion. They have an ostracizing factor within them that if you don't follow that same party line, you are not part of the group. And if you tout anything, or if you say anything that is against the party line, you are
Yeah,
a sinner and you burn in hell.
yeah, absolutely. So what I was saying is, um, I was mid-sentence. These people have been sort of conditioned to believe that you can complete. So so what the general thing that we can all agree upon in the world is that the world isn't perfect. There's a finite amount of resources to go around. Some people have a lot, some people have a little. If you have way too little due to whatever problems that you have as an individual, the government can help you out to a certain extent, and that's what the government is largely there for. and it's not completely fair. Some people get totally left out of this system, but that's what we have. We're trying to improve it, but improvements happen slowly, and ultimately people don't live forever. People always die. Nobody's going to get the best health care. Nobody's going to get the best benefits. Ultimately, we're all in it for ourselves. The end. That's sort of like what reality is, right? You know, like, and we don't want it to be as harsh as that, but it is that, and we all kind of know it. However, there are some people that really, really want to believe that things can just not be that way, and that we can have, if we all collectively want it bad enough, we can have a society that doesn't have those problems, and that everybody gets enough, and then these are the people that believe, like, hey, there is enough resources to put a roof over the head and a good meal to everybody on all the earth, and give them good medical coverage, and everybody
There,
could live
well,
together
there,
harmoniously. And
there,
technically there is.
with the exception of everybody can live together harmoniously, everything that you said there is true. I
Well,
think
yeah. No,
I do
okay.
not think that people can live together harmoniously as long as religion holds as much power in this world as it does.
Well, um or even uh communism type, like that would, we would have to get to so much more of a post scarcity society for any sort of like communism to like actually um really work. I do think that going towards things like a universal basic income are likely going to be
Uh,
necessary, but I don't know.
I'm in this tranny discussion group on Facebook, and the moderator of that group and I were talking. I think I was talking with her, but the moderator of that group and I came up with an interesting concept the other day, and that uh, communism without capitalism is fascism, and capitalism without communism is totalitarianism.
Hmm.
Like, I really do believe that, and I'm probably not like quoting this accurately because I'm stoned as fuck right now, but like it boils, the whole concept we were playing with boils down to the ideal form of government right now would be a cross between a capitalistic and communistic system.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, I really do agree with Bernie Sanders that democratic socialism really is the answer.
I,
At
I
least the
mean,
answer that we need right now.
I think technically it's what we have always been moving towards. Like,
Well, up until
free,
the
like,
last 5 years, we've been moving towards it. Now we're moving more towards a fascist state, and it's largely thanks to the actions of Antifa.
well, it's hard to say. Um, Really hard to say where we're headed at the moment. But okay, so Antifa is people who, for the most part, have been told that, you know, they've been told that instead of our society being, kind of not really that fair, but life isn't fair, like everybody else has been told, they've been told that life is directly, totally fucking unfair. The government made it that way. The government exploits us all. The government and the corporations fucking suck, and they
I
don't.
think that there's a lot of truth to that, actually.
Um, I think that there's definite.
I don't think that it is gospel, but I think that there is a lot of truth to that.
Well, okay. I think that the problem ends up. Okay. I don't think that it's not a true statement. I'm just saying what I think Antifa kind of believes, right?
Well,
So
I think where Antifa deviates from the truth is they see it as a race war when it is not a race war.
yeah, that's
This is the top 10% of this country shitting all over the bottom 50% of the country.
yeah, yeah. There's definitely that. But okay, so let me just finish for a while because I
Okay.
think I want to articulate this sort of thought, which is that these people had been conditioned for a while, um, because even during the Obama administration, um, Obama won his second term. What people need to remember is that Obama won his second term in spite of the Occupy movement. And that was probably a really big surprise to a lot of people, including many people at the Democratic Party, because Obama had bailed out the big banks when the gigantic collapse of 2007 and 2008 happened. And Obama made, put the go ahead to totally have the American people pay their money to bail out the big banks, which, sunk our economy entirely. It just destroyed it. And Occupy was a
I'll
protest.
bring my screen back in just a minute. I've got to check these messages.
Okay. Occupy was a protest about that. And what the Democratic Party pretty clearly did was to try to they used Antifa to break up the Occupy protest and introduced identity politics about it and sort of divide the masses and to use sort of a divide and conquer strategy and get people to kind of be like, oh, it's not the rich people that are the problem. It's the white people, or it's the men, or the fucking whatever, like anything besides the rich people. Because, and it wasn't simply because of the rich people that were trying to deflect blame, but it was because the Democrats were working with the rich people, and they wanted to keep getting votes, and so they figured, well, we can get people talking about identity politics, and then we can market ourselves as the party of identity politics, which they did. And at that point, I think that they started funneling a lot of money into feminist organizations and anti-racist organizations, and maybe even anarchist type groups, because those were all people that were good at sort of like promoting radical identity politics and stuff, and also didn't really have a sense of big government and like actual politics and how it really works. Like they figured, okay, we'll give all this money to we'll give all this money to the leaders of the useful idiots, and the leaders will keep the useful idiots busy by talking about all this, like, identity politics. And I don't know if they knew that they were giving money to a bunch of like fucking actual communists, because the thing about communists is that communists are pretty secretive about the fact that they're communists. They don't always just come right out and say it. They're kind of like vampires in that way. They're good at breeding. They never really come right out and say it, and they never completely die. And that's sort of what communists are like, and they have been since the McCarthy era. So um either either the Democratic Party didn't really know, or the Democratic Party is kind of communists. Some people say that they are. I don't really know. I honestly,
I really do think that not necessarily communist, but there is a strong socialist bent to the Democratic Party, and I kind of think that that's the strength of the DNC. But Antifa takes that strength and just turns it so overboard that it becomes their greatest flaw.
well, the sad thing about Antifa is that most of the people in it, they don't fucking even know that they're communists. Like, most of them think that they're anarchists. Most of them think that they're anarchists, and their version of politics is just being rebels and fighting the system. And they think that if we had anarchism, it would be a utopian cooperative society where everybody would help
Well,
each other.
back when I was with Occupy, and I was a hardcore Occupy protester, yes, I was an anarchist at that time too, but I did not see anarchy as the end solution. I saw anarchy as the tool that we need to use to put in place a better system. And bear in mind that this was when I was like 21 years old, living on the street, and I was young and stupid.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people who feel or say sort of similar things to that, but there's definitely also a lot of people who think that if we got anarchy, you could sustain it, and they always reference the period immediately after the Spanish Civil War, where they didn't really have a government and people like sort of sustained society for something like 6 years, and then like it collapsed because like ultimately they didn't have a military, and
Exactly.
you
It
know,
collapsed.
yeah, and it
People
will,
were stealing from other people.
yeah,
Like, I'm sure the crime rate was through the roof during that time period too.
still is. Spain
Oh
is like
yeah.
incredibly crime ridden.
I mean, that's why Catalonia is trying to get away from Spain.
Yeah, no, if you go to Spain, like if you go to Barcelona,
The house that I live in is it's kind of sort of wanting to be a hostel, and we've had hitchhikers from Europe come through and stay with us for like weeks at a time. And one of our repeated guests is from Spain.
yeah, if you go to Spain, if you go to Barcelona, for example, um, you go out on like a Friday night and get drunk, and people are just like mugging each other, like, and apparently it's like it's not even entirely like you would think it would be like total, thug criminal type, or like crackheads or whatever, but it's like it's not even really. It's like semi-normal dudes get drunk and decide to like steal someone's wallet and run away, and like
Or like in the United States, the best equivalent that we would have would be teenagers and joyrides. You steal a car and you're driving around the city as fast as you can until you get caught.
yeah. So the hold on one second. I'm gonna eat this one more Don Monday. My blood sugar. I think my blood sugar was getting low or something because I was like getting all woozy when I was writing earlier. So I really need to eat. Feeling a lot better though.
Sounds like it's tasty.
It is. It's really good.
Thai food?
No, it's Greek.
Okay.
So yeah, I was like woozy and it's cold here now, so I was like not gonna walk to the store. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. I just want to like talk to somebody and eat and perfect. So fuck it. I'm gonna spoil myself. Um. Okay. So these people, these Antifa people, they kind of think that you can actually make an anarchist civilization, and that if we didn't have a government, that people would work together harmoniously and everything would be awesome, and it would be kind of like Burning Man or the Oregon Country Fair or something. Like that's
They
kind of what they
want
think.
they want the world to be a perpetual rainbow gathering.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of what they think, and they don't really know how it would work, and they don't really even want to think about how it would work. That's not fun. What they would prefer to do is go to a punk show, or go to a you know rave in Oakland with a bunch of other people who all think like this, and get to temporarily live in an alternate reality in which everybody's like that. And that's kind of what they think. Like, it's like, oh, if everybody was just like me and my friends, the world would be perfect. Okay. Well,
Well,
what do
yeah,
you
the world would be perfect if everybody would just fucking listen to me too.
yeah. Yeah, and but it's also kind of like, well, yeah, but like, okay, but like what do you guys do? Like, would you guys And granted, there are some anarchists. You and I met each other at a
Yeah.
farm that is like a kind of like a queer anarchist. I mean, I don't know if they
Yeah, we met at a radical ferry party.
well, it was at Ravens
Ravens
Crossing.
Creek Crossing. Yeah.
Yeah, Ravens Crossing no longer exists. They had to sell it, but it
That's
was
very unfortunate. That was a beautiful piece of land.
it was absolutely beautiful. That was we actually went to one of the last gatherings that was there.
Mhm.
And it's a place that I don't know if they all define as anarchists because it's a place that it's okay. It was owned by several different people for a long period of time. Um, you know, probably a decade or so. They own this land, and then various people would move in and out of it. And some people probably identified as anarchists. Some people were probably just random queer people, and some people were just random hippies. Everybody was, I think, not heterosexual. And
I think that I was the straightest person there.
um, and and everybody had kind of a, you know, like we all kind of wished that we could live away from society and have our own society and maybe grow our own food. And they did that at least. They did at least grow a decent amount of food. I don't know if they grew all their own food, but they grew a decent
Uh, from
amount
what
of.
I from what I saw when I was there, like they had just gotten done with harvest. It looks like they grew all of their own food.
Yeah, and so I respect that and I appreciate that because they put in the work and they were you know, like it's like, okay, if you want to be an anarchist, well, you grow your own damn food, you govern yourself with your friends. And they did, you know, like to the most part. However, I remember hearing a story, they told this story around the campfire, and maybe it was maybe you heard this, I don't know. But it's kind of telling. Um they had a moment where there was this I think it was a storm, and they had a really big window, and it was a windstorm, and the window broke because of the storm. And somebody went to go try to, like, you know, stop it or whatever, you know, like, oh no, we have to, our window's gonna break, and they were like bracing it, and the glass broke all over them and basically like cut open their entire arm to the point where it was like life threatening. And they were like trying to hold the skin together to stop the bleeding, but it was like, okay, we absolutely have to go to the hospital, like there's no, this is just not okay, like this like we have to go to the hospital. And they didn't want to because none of them had health insurance, because of course they're, you know, anarchist hippie queer people that, you know, try to live off the land as best they can. So they went, and they had to tell a story about who they were, and they like said that they didn't have their ID, and they had this like whole elaborate story that they had to give to the medical professionals to get stitches and stuff. And I think it might have been something where they got stitches and then they were supposed to come back for a follow up, and then as soon as it healed, they just let it stay, and they never got a follow up because they didn't have health insurance and they got away without paying. But that being said, you know, it's like, well, you know, health insurance is the thing, and you probably could have died had that hospital not been there, you know. And the hospital is I don't know if it was a private hospital or not, but almost every hospital at least has a major connection to government, you know. So like that's what you kind of got to think about. Like there's no, in our society, we are a government society. That's just sort of how things are. So these people, you know, even the people that think that they can entirely get away from all of that have to occasionally rely on the government. Lyra?
Oh, I'm sorry. I accidentally muted my microphone. I've
Oh, okay.
been sitting here trying to get in, and I thought you were just, kept on going.
No, yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we have our society has not been able to live as a government free society since we were gathering in groups larger than a couple of hundred.
Mhm. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So it's like, why do you expect, why would anyone expect us to believe that we're just gonna like get rid of government and it's gonna work? It wouldn't work. These people are delusional. And but there was a lot of funding and a lot of very deliberate effort into getting them to believe in this stuff. And um I can follow the trajectory of how it got from here to from how it got to the Occupy protests, and how it became what we and how it became the Antifa SJWs of today.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a lot of like redefining of words, um making things out to like, making okay, cutting people off from using their brain. You no longer had to think about individual actions between yourself and other people. Everything was collectivized, and it became very, very tribalistic, and everything became about identity politics. You no longer had to be conscious of actually being a good person. Instead, you
You
had
just
to
had to parrot the party line and look like you're a good person.
well, yeah, you had to make sure that nobody called you a racist or something,
Yeah.
or a patriarchal or whatever, because if you had to avoid being attacked more than anything, and that was the primary goal. And one of the best ways to do that was to attack other people. And they kind of assumed that as long as they did that, as long as they kept those, as many of the masses as they could, entrenched in this kind of like call out culture madness of identity politics, which, in 2015 was wildly effective. Like that call out culture, like fucking bullshit, was, nobody knew how to match it, and it was winning. But by 2016, it met its match with the YouTubers, and the YouTubers ended up winning and swinging the elections. Like both Brexit
Yeah.
and Trump, because they
You
were
know,
just.
I honestly think that Sargon was one of the biggest voices that affected Brexit by far.
Mhm. Yeah. Well. mm,
And I still don't know how I feel about the whole Brexit situation because I actually did kind of wish that the European Union could actually work.
mm. Well, yeah, a it's a very precarious situation to put Europe in, Western Europe in, to not have the European Union, because it makes them less easy to ally with the United States. And the United States is very likely kind of what's protecting Western Europe from Russia.
Yeah.
So um it is very, very weird. Yeah, it would be nice if, like, in a perfect world, things would maybe be a little bit better. And I don't really know. But regardless, that call out culture madness, it was very, very successful. And then it started being less successful because it was
Of people
actual.
like Sargon.
Yeah, and also because the people just got more and more mean and more cocky and more fanatical. Like it was like it used to be like, men's feelings aren't as important as women's, and here I'm going to tell you why, because women are oppressed. And then it became, I bathe in male tears. Like like,
And to me, that seems like it was an overnight shift too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but it's still shifting. That's the thing. It's still getting worse and worse, and that's
Like
where we
I
got
remember the
with.
first time I see Cat Black
Mhm.
drinking from a cup of white tears.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. She's a monster. But So as the time went on with the call out culture and the stuff like that, um, and by the way, we have 11 viewers, which is more than I thought we were going to get.
Yeah, one of them is actually a really good friend of mine too.
Oh, cool. So
Yeah, what's up? Just give a quick shout out to Adam right now. Hey, Adam.
Okay. Hi, Adam. Um, so as the kind of call out culture thing progressed, it was just sort of like a divide and conquer, identity politics stuff, and it was largely it. It's not that the Democratic Party just did it, but they did fund it. I'm pretty positive. I'm pretty positive it was their think tank that came up with this plan. Like, let's divide everybody with identity politics to distract from the fact that we are the party of Wall Street. Because the Democrats became the party of Wall Street. Hillary Clinton bragged about it to Goldman Sachs. Like, this is a known thing.
Yeah,
So
she straight up bragged.
yeah, she was like, I want to assure you that you should vote for us and give all your money to us because we are the Wall Street party. So they wanted to distract from that fact with identity politics, and it was working, but they had to give they couldn't just you know they couldn't just say it themselves. Like, nobody listens to the Democratic Party. They had to pay intermediates. They had to pay people in the middle to peddle the stuff. And those people ended up, a lot of them, being weird radical communists that got people interested in this weird radical communist mentality. And then what kind of happened is that they lost the election, and there was all these people who were already in this mindset of like quasi communism, identity politics that really just doesn't actually make any sense. And they were like, oh, well, we can just convince these people that Donald Trump, that the opposition is Nazis. And I don't think that they were doing that prior to the election. They were already saying Donald Trump is literally Hitler prior to the election. For like a year prior, they were saying that. And I think that they just kind of thought that that would guarantee that Hillary Clinton
Let
would.
me break in for a minute because Adam's son just did something really cute. After I gave Adam the shout out, his son cries out, "Wow, Senpai noticed you." The kid's like 10 years old at most.
Oh, funny. That's awesome. So, um, every time you talk, I take a bite, and so that's why. Um, so, um, at the at the point in which Hillary Clinton, they were trying to say that Trump was literally Hitler because they assumed that Hillary Clinton would win if they said that enough, and then it didn't work. And what I think happened is, like, at first they probably didn't know what to do. They were like, okay, we can overturn this. We can steal this election away from Trump. We can, they had the whole Jill Stein thing, and that didn't work out. And meanwhile, Antifa was organizing and getting crazy. And I think what happened is that there was like a weird transfer of the people who had been getting money, the radical communist people that had been getting money that was ultimately stemming either from the Democratic Party or people like George Soros, who were funding this in the interest of the Democratic Party and all of their global constituents. Because they all kind of work together. They all work with the same corporations and the same big banks and stuff. It's like it's the same sort of thing. Like, there's definitely dissent within them, but they try to do what's best for the empire, And when when Trump won, the radical communist intersectional feminist people, they really believed that Trump was literally Hitler, and the people at the think tanks, the smart people in the Democratic Party, probably thought to themselves, well, what can we do? are we supposed to say, hey, just kidding, we were lying, he's our president now? Or should we run with the narrative that he's literally Hitler because it will ensure us a victory in 2012? And they say, well, those are both really shit options, because obviously we can't just say that we were liars. That would undermine our credibility. We
Do
can't.
you mean 2016? You said 2012.
No, 2012. 2020 is what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, the options
Well,
that they're,
we shouldn't even be, yeah, we 2020, I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm stoned. I'm getting my dates mixed up.
yeah, no. So the options that they were faced with is either tell everybody that we were liars, or continue with the narrative that Trump is literally Hitler and try to cause as much civil unrest as possible. And during that period of time, everybody will just, we can all blame everything on Trump, and then people will vote for anybody besides Trump in the year 2020. And that seems to be what they're going with. And so they have all these people that they kind of like accidentally brainwashed, and they're not deprogramming them because of the fact that they they just don't really think it's a good idea. They're like, you know what, it's not realistic to deprogram you guys, so we're not going to even attempt to, like,
Well,
there's they could
all they're
be.
doing is they're burying their head in the sand, and they're just not going to notice when they lose another election in 2020.
Well, I think that they probably have, you have to keep in mind, I mean, these people aren't as stupid as they act, or aren't as stupid as it seems. Like,
The problem with Antifa is normally with humans. The more humans you get together, the more things you can accomplish with those humans. The smarter the body is, the more minds you have in that body. But with Antifa, it's the more bodies you get into the mass, the louder the rhetoric becomes, and the louder the echoing becomes. And there is no like intelligence no longer matters. There's no independent thought whatsoever, and an organism that has no independent thought is not going to be able to survive.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely a very valid point to make. And the thing is, like, I think that, you know, what the Democratic Party is facing now is this weird dilemma of the aftermath of the biggest social experiment that the world has ever seen, which was introducing propaganda combined with algorithms and social media. They very deliberately created a whole elaborate web of propaganda, everything from BuzzFeed to MTV's Decoded to Everyday Feminism. This all was funded by, Democratic Party, Clinton Incorporated, fucking whatever you want to call it. That entity was all, they knew what they were doing. And they made sure that that stuff showed up all over everybody's Facebook timeline starting in 2012 when Obama legalized the usage of propaganda on the American people. And all of a sudden, everybody's talking about white privilege all day, every day, and all that stuff happened. And for a while, they were getting the desired effect. For a while, they were getting exactly what they wanted out of that propaganda. But then it started to go wrong. And then they stopped being able to control it because independents started creating their own content to counter it and ended up being more effective at it. And they didn't know what to do. And Antifa is is sort of their response to losing that battle. And Antifa's the people who aren't following the battle at all. Like they
Yeah,
They're
you can't convince them that they are not winning.
yeah, well, and they're so behind that they're barely even following the social justice stuff itself. Like we were looking, I looked at your thread, and the one that you were,
I can bring that back up if you want me to.
yeah, you were arguing with this person, and that person said a very common thing that gets said to gay guys and transgender women. They said, "Oh, you should be fighting Nazis, but I guess you don't care about respecting the graves of the black trans women that fought for your rights, because black trans women fought for all your rights. They're the ones who got you your rights."
Oh yeah, I know exactly where you're talking about. They tried to bring up Martha P. Johnson, saying that she is single-handedly responsible for the gay liberation movement, and
Basically,
I
that's
I
yeah,
addressed that, and I think I addressed that really well.
yeah,
Let
yeah, yeah.
me find that.
Yeah, yeah, you did, and that's a very common thing that these
Yeah.
people say.
Right there's where he said, Blue said Martha P. Johnson threw that first brick. She was not peaceful, and you're out there using those rights she fought for to condemn those very methods. My reply to that was she was acting in active self-defense from a police force that was in the process of physically attacking her and her community. It was self-defense, not initiating conflict. And yes, she started the movement, but she would not have survived that night to spark the movement had everyone else not immediately joined in on her act of self-defense. I applaud her actions and the actions of her community. Self-defense is always justified. Attacking someone because they disagree with you is not self-defense. And earlier in the same conversation, I also said, yeah, they said that it was first they tried to give credit to all black trans or all trans women of color. Yeah, considering black trans women of color who gave us our right, they were trying to give it to all black trans women. So I say, correction, a black trans woman and a whole bunch of cis gay men behind her. No movement was won by one person or demographic.
Yeah, and what's funny about that though is it shows just how little those people actually know, because like that thing. Okay, first of all, as some other guy pointed out in your thread, they commented, and this is what I believe is true. Marsha Johnson didn't even throw a brick at first; she threw a shot glass, and that was what sparked the riots because
That is a completely moot point,
oh
though.
yeah,
The,
absolutely,
the
absolutely,
act of
it is.
defiance was that something was thrown.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
What
yeah.
was
No, no, and
thrown
yeah,
does not matter.
yeah, and you're right. What you're saying? Like I'm not arguing with you, but I think it was that she threw a shot glass, and that inspired more and more violence because obviously at the time gays, it was illegal to be gay. Stonewall, I believe, was owned by the mafia because
Yeah.
the mafia did their best to keep the cops away. And they made a whole butt ton of money selling alcohol to gays. But of course, they couldn't always keep the cops away, and the cops would come around and arrest people for, like whatever little stupid thing that they could come up with to arrest them for. And in this instance, Marsha was probably drunk because she had a shot glass and she was like, "Fuck this! I'm sick of this shit." Because I've known a lot of black trans women who would have done the same fucking thing eventually.
Again, color doesn't matter there. I know a lot of trans women,
Yeah,
period, that
yeah,
would have.
yeah. No, I'm
Ask
just
Adam. I
imagining
would
a
have done
specific
that.
person. Yeah.
But I'm imagining a couple of specific people too. And yes, um, a white trans woman would have done that. A black trans woman would have already mastered that, and her act of defiance would have been a performance. A white trans woman's act of defiance would have been seen as like a hissy fit.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. I mean, Yeah, but regardless, that whole story is very well talked about. Like if you want to research Stonewall, there's a lot of resources. Like it's a very it's not like something that it's like a myth or whatever. Like there's like all sorts of like documentaries and books and fucking like just do a Wikipedia search and then like go to do a Wikipedia search for Stonewall riots, and then go to the references and you'll find a big long list of books, and in multiple ones of those books they will give you different historical accounts, different people who were there testifying what they saw, and blah 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 blah, because it's a very very famous event that a lot of people were at that sparked a lot of activism.
Yeah,
So
like the Stonewall and the community around Stonewall, from my understanding at that time period, was like the place where gays lived in New York because that was the only place they could afford.
well, in particular, lower class gays that didn't have the luxury of being closeted. If guys were rich enough,
Like if I were alive in that period, I would have been living in the Stonewall community.
yeah, because if guys were rich enough and they could, live a double life, they could be closeted. But
Mhm.
if you were homeless, if you were transgender, if you were a sex worker, if you were, all of these things that, you ended up at Stonewall. And that was why they
That's how
ended
the
up,
Castro got its start too.
yeah, that's why they ended up getting picked on a lot. Um, but okay, the point I'm trying to make with like talking about the specifics of this story, the fact that there's like these fucking people trying to say, "Oh, the black trans women got you all your rights." No, that's not exactly how it went down. There's a story to that, and if you claim to care about it, there's no excuse to not know a little bit more about it, because it's really easy to learn about Stonewall and like what actually happened. Like there's no excuse to be that ill-informed and yet being so tied to that as if it's your like imagine if you were a a black activist, and granted there's a lot of people who are just like this. If you were a Black Lives Matter activist and you were like, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 and you literally thought, and you didn't know who Medgar Evers was, you never heard the name,
I
and
actually haven't heard the name, or if I have, I can't put a face to it.
well, he was okay. The biggest leader that everybody remembers is Martin Luther King, obviously.
Yes.
Then it would be Malcolm X, but
Mhm.
not as many people remember Malcolm X. And then it would be
How come?
Medgar Evers after.
Okay.
And they were all three of them were assassinated within probably the same year.
Okay. I've probably read some of his writings, but I'm terrible with names.
Yeah. So yeah, it would be like somebody who, thought who never heard of Medgar Evers or Malcolm X, and who thought that black intersectional feminist women were the ones who did all the work during the civil rights era because they did all the emotional labor or something. Like it's the same type of like fucking revision as it would be to say that black trans women fought for all the gay rights. Like it's totally not really how it happened. Like yeah, there was maybe like Rosa Parks on the bus, but like to say, oh well, it was all black women. No, it was a whole fucking movement that went on for years. Like
Yeah.
it's so fucking like.
And also, like another thing that happened in that conversation thread that I brought up, they try like one of the Antifa guys tried to actually, or this may have been in another thread, but they actually tried to claim credit for beating the Nazis. And I posted onto Facebook later on, like right after that, that Antifa likes to claim credit for beating the Nazis in World War II when it was actually the United States military industrial complex that won the war.
Mhm.
Uh, so like they're trying to revise history so that they are painted as heroes throughout history, and all of the people that they consider to be evil, such as conservatives and the military industrial complex, are looked at as if they are just total villains that have never done anything good for this world.
Yeah. Well, and so what's yeah, and then that's part of the redefinition. They create an entire narrative for these people to believe, and then they systematically um shut these people off from reality by discouraging them from having relationships with anybody who makes any sense, which is what happened to you today. You tried to make sense and you were promptly ganged up on by a few people, right? Or was it
Uh, Two and a half.
two and a half? Okay.
The half person, they were actually uh, um, the one that I redacted and read. And here, let me just bring it back up again because she actually like provided an incident for me of overt racial hatred, like assault because the man was Chinese.
Mm.
And she was providing citation and everything. So yeah, two and a half. She didn't gang up on me. She didn't really insult me. She was just, yeah, here down at the bottom of this one. Uh, your comment reminds me of a recent incident where white man was yelling racial slurs and literally slapping an Asian man in his seat on a BART train. It actually wasn't a BART train. It looks like possibly a New York subway, but it wasn't a BART train.
Of course it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was probably
Well,
in fucking like Chechnya or
well,
something.
no, it was very much an American like
Okay.
video. The like I straight up apologized to her because at first before she provided the citation, I said, if that story is even true, it's very fucked up.
Yeah.
And she provided citation, so I removed that one comment and then thanked her for citation.
Yeah. So, but point being, you know, you were promptly ganged up on.
Yeah, by two people.
Yeah,
By, by two
and
people. One of them was a close personal friend of mine at one point.
yeah, and those people were like the friend of that person who ganged up. They had nothing to say. They didn't have a fucking point. They didn't have an argument, and they fucking knew it. Like all they could do was just start blathering on, like fucking, like basically they were like, "She's a witch. Get rid of her. Get rid of her. She's a witch." Like that was basically their reaction to you making sense.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there may have been a page that got cut off. I didn't actually save these screenshots. The person that is redacted in the honorable color of purple here at the very end, she actually came to my defense, and I would actually like
yeah,
to read what she said.
yeah. Please do,
Uh,
because yeah, it was really
like
nice to see that.
right at the end, she came in and said that I am boss, that I said it so well, and asked if I had a blog. I actually don't, but I'm considering figuring out where to write one because I write better than I speak.
You should do a blog.
Um,
I can help you come up. We'll talk after this. Yeah.
okay. But redacted in black here is that right there is the last post that I was able to see. I was blocked at that point. And then Redacted in Purple comes in, and she is actually really fucking cool. She says, that's wrong. Just because somebody doesn't support violence, don't cut them off. This is exactly how this shit always plays out. Now your good friend is on a kill list because she won't censor her beliefs. Not necessarily a literal kill list, but I would not be surprised if the next time I'm in San Francisco, I get mobbed.
Mocked.
Mobbed, as in like a bunch of people in hoodies come and harass me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think
It's
I
been
think
happening.
what do
It's been happening to a couple of my conservative friends that live in the city. They speak out against their Antifa, their friends that are affiliated with Antifa online, and a bunch of people in black hoodies come and never actually attack them, but harass them and threaten them for a little while.
huh? Like how? Like what?
Like just hang around them, be really intimidating. One friend of mine actually said that they surrounded him and were as close to as they possibly could be to him without touching him and not allowing him to leave the like 2 foot location that he was in
Where,
and calling him a fucking Nazi and shit. And this was right in the middle of Powell Street.
oh, how did they find him?
I don't know. They may have just recognized him from his picture on Facebook.
Yeah. Um,
Or they may, like, what I'm worried about is right when I moved to San Francisco, a lot of the people in the circle of friends that I landed into, they are Antifa now. They are hardcore Antifa. I watched them firsthand descend down this road.
uh-huh.
And they know everywhere I frequent in this city. They know where my doctor's office is. They know where my therapist's office is.
Uh-huh. Uh,
Like, I doubt that they're actually going to do anything, but I could very well
yeah,
be not safe in the city.
can I ask you what um the person that got harassed on the street, is this person more conservative than you? Are they more conservative than I
I
am? Like
I
what
would
how would
I
you
would
rate?
say I would say about equal to me, and I'm not really that conservative.
Yeah, no, you're not. No, I don't consider you conservative at all.
Like the person that I'm thinking of specifically, they speak out against Islam a lot, and
Mm,
that's why they get shunned.
mm, okay.
And they may speak out against a couple of other things, but I don't pay that much close attention. I don't have really any meat space friends anymore. All of my friends are on the internet.
Yeah, me too for the most part. Um, so yeah, uh, okay, a few things. Um, it's hard to say. Uh, well, oh, also, when did that incident happen?
Oh, this was a few months ago. Like, I don't think it's anything recent that's going on. It might be. I've purposely removed myself from a lot of the loop.
Okay, so yeah, there's a few things that to keep in mind. Like for one, Antifa peaked in the early summer.
Hmm.
And that was sort of their time that they thought that maybe they were like a growing movement. And then
Yeah, now
towards
they're fizzled.
towards the end of the summer, they were officially classified as a domestic terrorist
Hmm.
organization. Like it turned out that the FBI had been monitoring them as a growing.
As if they were for about a
Yeah,
year.
yeah, and that's what they do with, terrorist organizations. It turns out that, they don't just decide to try to bust them up. They see, wait, is this growing? Who are the people that are really behind it? Because ultimately, the really scary people already know how to cover their tracks because this is probably not the first scary thing that they've been involved in. Like, and so the FBI is going to sit back and kind of like wait and see what's actually happening. And that's what they've been doing. And once Antifa realized that, and then the police started coming out more. Like it used to be that Milo Yiannopoulos and or I don't fucking remember who, which speakers try to go to Berkeley, and Antifa is allowed to just basically burn the
Yeah.
school.
Like the last time it was Milo and yeah, Chicken Face and Coulter.
Yeah, well, I think that time they actually had some cops, but the
Well,
first
Free
time.
Speech Week did get shut down.
Well, okay, so the first time Milo tried to, there's been like 4 or 5 of times that they went to Berkeley. I don't even fucking remember anymore.
Yeah. Like I just call it the various battles for Berkeley at this point.
Yeah. So
Because they
yeah,
all happened within a few months of each other, so they all really run together. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
live just down the road from it.
yeah, and that's intense. And so like the first one that happened, Antifa was basically just allowed to burn the school down for all anybody cared, you know?
It was something like $135,000 worth of damage done to the campus.
Yeah, it was a lot. No, I know, that's what they're telling, but it was much more than that. It was
Oh yeah,
much,
I'm
much
sure.
more than that. People, because there's people who know how much, I think that they burnt some sort of like electrical truck or some crap, or some sort of. There was one piece of machinery that they burnt, and somebody who I know who works in that field, like one of my subscribers, or maybe not one of my subscribers, somebody who works in that field was pricing it and saying that just that piece of machinery is worth about $100,000.
Like from like the physics department?
I don't no. It was something that was like outside on the campus, like something
Okay.
like a generator or something.
Like a generator or a transformer?
Yeah, some shit like that, and they like destroyed it, and that thing by itself would be worth like $100,000. So it was a massive amount of money that they.
And you can't just go to Mos Eisley to get those power converters.
Yeah, so there was a first battle of Berkeley, and you know, it was like the mayor was totally in on it, and he just let it happen, you know, and then there was
Adam actually told me that he confirmed for us that it was a generator that got burned, and it was an expensive generator.
yeah. So
They also tried to battering ram the windows of the building too.
yeah, and I think they broke some of them.
A few of them.
Yeah. So they, you know, and then there was other battles at Berkeley where, you know, similar things happened. And then I think the free speech thing, like technically the speaking event got canceled, but it was kind of confusing as to why it was canceled. But the cops at least showed up, and then they finally had Ben Shapiro show up, I think a month or two ago. It's hard to remember. Time is a weird new continuum these days. Probably 2 months ago, Ben Shapiro spoke at Berkeley, and
yeah, that was the first time the cops actually did their job and cordoned off Antifa and got them into a side building before the event even started, detained them there, and then everybody was trying to say that it was a wrongful arrest.
yeah, they arrested them?
No, they arrested one person that night. They detained everybody inside one of the school buildings that was there wearing the uniform of the Black Bloc.
Okay. That's good strategy.
And then after Ben Shapiro was done talking, they let them go.
So, okay. They had that happen, and then it was becoming clear that Antifa was that the cops were actually doing their job, and Antifa has started to be a little bit less cocky, because I think that what was kind of going on in their head
is that the cops were on their side.
Yeah, and that the majority of Americans were on their side, and that they were a growing movement. And
at that time, the majority of Americans probably were.
There was a while, yeah. There was a while when I was seeing fucking soccer moms talking about, I want to go punch some Nazis, and it was like, you ain't gonna do shit. You're an out of shape middle-aged woman.
That's what the Vagina Hat March was all about.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, and it was like these fucking
the pussy hats were there to try and provoke a fight.
Well, the pussy hats were at least mostly people like trying to be peaceful and say that they want it, but like,
I fully agree with the pussy hat like protest. That was beautiful, and it made conservatives so uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem. I at least I respect their right to do it, and I think that they did it in a fine, and they did it in a fine way. I mean, I think it was kind of
agree with what they were saying.
I think it was kind of embarrassing, and yeah, I think that we probably have a similar opinion on that. But the thing about the there was a weird period where like you know, people are so like monkey see, monkey do in terms of like tribalism, that like if there's a BuzzFeed video or some sort of meme that shows up on their Facebook that's trying to be like, punch a Nazi, it's the cool thing to do, there's going to be like fucking, you know, 42-year-old women being like, yeah, I'm going to go punch some Nazis. Yeah. And it's like, what the fuck? No, you aren't.
Have you ever actually seen, or like, I'd look at this lady and say, have you ever actually seen a skinhead that just got out of prison?
Have you ever punched something that wasn't like your boyfriend in the shoulder? You know, like,
Well, a lady like this has probably punched her boyfriend in the face because a woman can't abuse her boyfriend.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm, just saying things. But okay, so like there was that period, and then like it's there. Okay, so it was a definite moral panic that broke out that media decided to run with, and these have been recorded, and this is maybe the biggest one that's ever happened in all of recorded history. So it's really hard to say what's happened, but it's really screwed up because it's infused with social media. And so it's not just people who are worried that maybe their children's, like the satanic panic of the 1980s, people were worried that everybody who listened to heavy metal, if you listen to even Guns N' Roses, you might be a Satanist. And
I love what they tried to do to D&D, how they tried to make Dungeons and Dragons out into some like
yeah, and
indoctrinating cult.
that was tacked into it too somehow. I guess
I
because a
miss
lot of
having a D&D group.
I guess because a lot of the same people who listen to heavy metal also play D&D or something. I don't know.
No, it's because in Dungeons and Dragons, there is the actual worship of evil gods. There's the existence of monsters and fantasy demons. There's the casting of spells. There's everything that a good conservative Christian parent learns to fear from their Bible. And then they hear their kids saying, I did this. I cast that spell. I
Oh, okay.
summoned that
Yeah,
demon.
yeah, yeah. That makes more sense now. I get it. That's funny. Um, uh, so okay. Um, w- uh, okay. What was I? Blah. Sorry, I
We
just
were
got
talking
distracted.
about
I
the
was okay.
satanic panic.
Okay, so it's in the, oh yeah, in the Satanic Panic. It
By the
was
way, I'm a satanic priestess.
oh, I didn't know
Temple
that.
of Satan.
I
Costs
did
her
not know.
$25 on the internet.
Didn't know that about you. So, when the Satanic Panic was happening and it was weird, but at least it was simply a bunch of people reading some like tabloids, like maybe the Inquirer or Star News, and watching fucking Geraldo Rivera, and that was like really about it. Like maybe they would sort of gossip about it at the PTA meetings, and there was a few wacky like religious leaders and blah 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 blah, and maybe they talked about it at church a little bit, but it didn't. Well, I wasn't really alive. Like I was a teeny little kid. It didn't really get that bad for the most part. Well, maybe people were being beat up. I don't know, but it wasn't political because, well, maybe okay. I shouldn't. I'm going to be questioning myself, so I shouldn't talk about it all that much. But the point is that they didn't have the social media element of it, and social media makes this stuff spread like like any false information or anything or any just shitty idea that resonates with people, like this notion of like all white people are privileged or white blah 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 blah, and like it's like it's ultimately if
Yes.
ultimately if you really break it down, it's illogical, and it like and it's a deflection from what it actually is, which is majority privilege. Like everybody in a majority group is considered normal, and that comes with a general set of benefits, and that's just sort of how it is. And it's but the whole white privilege concept is very flawed. Okay, anything like that, like any sort of dumb idea that still resonates with people, because it's like, okay, I can see why a racial minority would think to themselves that we live in a system where all racial minorities are working to benefit all white people, even to this day. I can see why they could be misled. And social media such a great way to mislead these people, because it's not simply just Geraldo Rivera on his talk show talking about this stuff, but there you go on Facebook and your friends are sharing these BuzzFeed anti-white, videos, and you'll look, and like BuzzFeed released a new video and 5 of your friends shared it. They all shared it. Oh, you should watch it. You should watch it. All your friends agree that this is a good video.
I
Then
came very close to falling down the BuzzFeed rabbit hole too. Like when I moved to San Francisco, it was almost a coin flip on which side of this argument I was going to end up on.
Mm. Yeah, I tried to, like, okay, so like I grew up in Seattle in the 90s, so I have a very different background than you, and I knew a lot of people that were like kind of like this, and I by the end of high school, I thoroughly thought that they were annoying, and I didn't really want to be friends with them, and I tried to find friends who were like bitchy and kind of un-PC, but we were just being un-PC as a joke, and but I didn't have very firm convictions. It was just sort of like how I was. And then when I was 18, George W. Bush was elected as president, and the PC thing died down really by about 2000. Honestly, the PC thing was steadily kind of pittering out all through his first 4 years. And then when he won for re-election, it just was over. Nobody pretended that the PC version of the 90s was a good idea anymore. And
Yeah.
a funny thing is that the PC version of the 90s, although it had many similarities, it was actually quite different in certain specific ways. Like I've talked about this in videos, but one of the biggest things that people talked about in the 90s was environmentalism, which they still sort of talk about, but that I would say environmentalism was top priority ahead of.
Oh, yeah, seriously. Captain Planet, I
Yeah.
can still sing that theme song to you.
Yeah, me too.
One of my favorite shows to this day.
Yeah. Did you ever see the meme that was like, did anybody ever notice that the kids from the Magic School Bus ended up
Yes.
growing? Yeah, it's very weird. So, yeah, environmentalism was like the thing that the Democratic Party was trying to sell to the masses in the 1990s, and the racism stuff was definitely still there. They were definitely race baiting, and the pro LGBT stuff was definitely still there because, and there's a very pragmatic reason as to why, if you think about it, which is that Ronald Reagan was the sitting president that happened during the AIDS crisis. Like the AIDS crisis started in the very early 80s. I'm not sure. I don't remember when the first case of AIDS was reported, but it was a year or two before people really realized that this was like a contagious disease. Like they thought that it was a mysterious cancer that was affecting gay men at first, and then it took like a year or two to be like, wait, this is actually a virus. And that happened when Ronald Reagan was president, and he and his administration, because they were Christians, and also because this had never really happened before, they just kind of ignored it. And
Yeah.
there's a movie about it called "And the Band Played On," and
Beautiful movie. Like I've cried every time I saw it.
I've never seen it.
You should. Like with as much of a queer historian as you are, that
Yeah.
is a travesty that you have not seen that movie.
Yeah, I know. I really should watch it. I really, Jesus, why do, yeah. Thank you for reminding me with this conversation to watch it. I will try to find some time, because I can't upload videos right now. I have some time on my hands. So I so the long story short, Ronald Reagan ignored it. Ronald Reagan had ties to the religious right. They continued to ignore it for a long time.
And
And
then they called it the gay plague.
yeah, and they called it the gay plague. And I mean, which it kind of was. That's sort of what it was. And the the LGBT community, rightfully so, had a major problem with the Republican Party because of that,
Yeah.
because they were the administration that did not do a good job handling it. So, um, what happened is finally by 1992, Bill Clinton, the Democrats, the Democrats had a charismatic Southern gentleman that people really liked for no great reason besides the fact that they were sick of Republicans and he seemed like a nice guy. Like that's
And he played the saxophone.
and he played the saxophone. Yeah, that's really what put fucking Bill Clinton into office.
He was pretty and he played the sax.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember his cat's name was Socks. I
Yeah,
love the
yeah.
cat.
Oh my God, I was looking at a picture of like the Clintons in the 1990s. There was an ongoing joke about how like Chelsea was like an ugly ass little girl. And like
Yes. And she
I
grew up to be an ugly ass little woman too.
she got better looking though.
Only slightly.
She really was a fucking hideous little girl. Like I feel really bad. Like cuz imagine being her. That would just be like, oh, it would be like on the public's. I mean, like I feel the same way about the Trump kid. You know, everyone's like talking shit about him. Like, but you know, okay. Regardless, all when the Democrats got into office, they realized they were like, wait, we can brand ourselves as the party that gives a shit about the LGBT community by trying to do some shit for healthcare and trying to say that we care about them. And they totally did that. They totally it was like it was such an easy marketing, you know, ploy because they had a party that didn't do a whole lot for the LGBT community, and so like it was a perfect window, you know, like it would be like if you if a bus canceled its line that went by a certain specific projects, and you were a bike company, like you were one of those like rent a bike companies, you're like, wait, I could go put my little rent a bikes right out in front of those projects and like I could make a killing. And that's what the Democrats did with the gay vote, you know, like
Mhm.
right. And so, you
Like
know,
you can't walk around Market Street anymore without tripping over one of those damn bike share things.
yeah, they're fucking annoying, right? So, like the Democratic Party was doing that in the 90s with the LGBT vote because that was just the natural order of things, you know? It they got to be the party that picked up where the other party had left off in terms of poorly handling LGBT rights. And so um but really that was only a small part of their platform, like the anti-racism, you know, offering welfare and then saying we're the ones that are, you know, not racist and blah blah, and fighting for affirmative action. Those were things that the Democrats did do. And they convinced a lot of like black leaders that they were the good parties, you know, because of that kind of thing. And that definitely happened. It was a part of their platform. But their biggest thing was the environment. And they were always talking about like that was what was on Nickelodeon. That was what, you know, like all the kids shows, like I think Captain Planet was on Nickelodeon. And
Well, that's how wasn't it Al Gore made his name?
yeah, because he had been, yeah, his name, he was the Mr. Ozone, they used to call him. And he fucking he was, I don't even fucking remember, like he had been a part of all this research looking into the ozone layer. And it was true that there was a period when the ozone layer was going away and people were burning in the sun easier. It was a noticeable thing that the sun became more potent due to the fact that our atmosphere was disintegrating due to carcinogens. And there was that one element. And then Al Gore had this whole theory that it was going to get worse and worse and worse exponentially, and that by you know, basically by now the sea level would have risen a fucking foot or something, you know, and that didn't come true. But uh Al Gore they were trying to put him as the next president in the year 2000. And so they had this whole,
Yeah, I actually remember them pushing him hard when I was in high school.
yeah, yeah.
And I liked Ralph Nader.
Mhm. So yeah, the whole the whole media narrative was centered around environmentalism because they actually had a candidate in mind that they wanted to push, and
Hmm.
that was the biggest thing that they were selling this one specific candidate on. And whereas now, um they realized
And
that Obama, the only,
what was it that they used to get Cheney to beat out uh Gore? Because Cheney was really the president during the Bush years.
oh, I think, you know
What?
what?
Because it,
I don't actually really know. I think that no, 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 no. Okay, well, people thought that they were voting for George Bush, and I think what it was at the time, and this is just my assessment of culture, from my memory. I would like to maybe talk to someone conservative about this and see what their opinion, if what their opinion is. But I think that there was um, a rejection of liberal urban elitism, and rejection of what they felt of as redefining of traditional values. Like people, like in the 90s, it became
hey,
okay.
in the chat, Casey actually said that they would love to talk to you on what happened with the Bush years.
Okay. Um, yeah, yeah, I could put Casey in. I could give it to him for a second. Hold on one second.
Like, I
Um,
think I've actually talked to Casey on one of your live streams before. The name sounds
yeah,
really familiar.
you undoubtedly have. He's been on my channel a lot. So
Yeah, it'll be nice to. I, I don't know. Yeah, bring
so
him in.
yeah,
Like, bring him
I
in.
sent him the link. So the thing is, I would say, from my best cultural estimation, that people from um because Bush was the last president of, the not maybe the last, but he was very much voted in by religious voters. Like that was a thing, and also by Fox News. Fox News was very, very biased towards Bush, and Fox News kind of branded itself as the real news. Like this is where you get the real news, and everything else is just the liberal media. And I think that the people who voted for Bush, they liked that Bush was outspoken about being a Christian, and he would refer to God very frequently, like very frequently. Like Trump sort of tries to do it sometimes, but it's extraordinarily phony when he does. But but George Bush could say the word God, like my fellow Americans, we're, you know,
You do that entirely too well.
well, because I was in theater school during the Bush years, so
That explains it.
yeah.
You guys used your theater warm-ups as a chance to make fun of the president.
Well, it's like we had to, like, man.
I was in theater during those years too.
Yeah, living in fucking New York City during the Bush years, like there were so many impressions of George W. Bush going on at all times. So I would say that, okay, I know for certain that there was a massive amount of Christian, like it's well known, it's well documented that there was a massive amount of like far right evangelical voters that voted for Bush, and it's one of those things where I think we're never going to know how much money the Republican Party directly just fucking gave to certain preachers so that they would continue to get votes, or that they got votes in the first place. Like that, but but that definitely happened. I think that there was like a heartland voting kind of contingent, and people were tired of the 90s is when the corporatization of media happened, and political correctness, like there was all these things that you were supposed to believe according to the media and according to the universities. And I think it started to creep people out just in general. But I don't think that they had a very clear definition as to why. They were just kind of like, okay, that's not what, I wasn't raised to be like this. Like, I was raised to be a good Christian, and these values you're talking about are not what I was raised to do. And so they voted for Bush because he felt more like the values that they grew up with. Whereas now,
or at least he seemed more like the lovable father figure than the overbearing parent telling you not to litter.
yeah, definitely. So some sort of combination of that. And I would say that that's a very different thing than Trump, because Trump won the election because people took apart the arguments from the left piece by piece and beat them. But they didn't offer some sort of new morality. It's not like they were like, let's return to the traditional values of America. Trump, like that's not really what it was.
Well, you're not far off there. By the way, it's good to hear you from you. We haven't talked in a while, actually.
Yeah, it's been like almost a year since I've been on one of Prince's streams.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear. But Prince, you're not off in your estimation of what happened. I was a really young kid at the time, but that tends to be, I asked people why they voted for Bush kind of retrospectively, and they kind of give the same answer you did. They wanted that. The thing with them is they really wanted another Reagan. It's the same thing with the Democrats, always looking for that next JFK. They want that. They really wanted that, and they projected that onto Bush because he came off as that. Well, he was able to do it. He was able to do it more so than I think than any Republican could have done at the time.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the other issue is people forget how actually pretty weak the Democrats were both times.
Well, not only that, but like Democrats, the people that are still clinging to the Democratic Party are not willing to admit that the party that they're clinging to has been corrupted to the point that it is no longer a political party. I mean, when you have the John Podesta emails that come out and literally lay out point by point how the Hillary Clinton campaign stopped the Bernie Sanders campaign from having access to the voter rolls.
Yeah.
And then you have Debbie Wasserman Schultz admitting in court that, yes, they, what was it that Debbie admitted? That they were denying. I can't remember what it was that Debbie admitted, but then Donna brings out
then Donna Brazile. That was the fucking nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
Fucking Donna Brazile.
Well,
like Donna Brazile came out and straight up admitted to. Hold up, can you all hear me?
Yeah, I'm just muted because I'm sort of still eating.
So Donna Brazile came out and straight up admitted, yes, we were funneling all money from the DNC straight into the Hillary campaign, even though we were supposed to be supporting all of the Democratic candidates for all levels of the election.
Yeah, because fucking Obama had bankrupted the party. Like that was the part that everyone's kind of like leaving out. Like everybody's like, see, the Debbie or the Donna Brazile memoir proves, shows that Bernie Sanders really did have the nomination stolen from him. And it's like, wait, but the reason how we got there was because Obama bankrupted the Democratic Party. And
that's still
they didn't have.
That is still not an excuse to break the bylaws and support one candidate over another when the candidate for the election hasn't even been chosen yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's kind of amazing to think about. Obama bankrupted the Democratic Party while he was the sitting president and getting all this like fucking Wall Street money. And what they did was they're like, how are we going to get out of this jam? And Hillary Clinton is like, I'm going to be president. That's how you're going to get out of this jam. I'll handle it, but you need to give me all the power. And they're like, okay, I guess you probably got a lot of connections, Hillary, don't you? And she's like, yeah, I do. I know fucking everyone.
Okay, I got to take my headset off for a minute and put my hair up. It's starting to get warm in here.
So I'm chewing, so I'm going to mute myself. But Casey, sorry, so you were talking about something, but hello? Okay. Casey does not actually seem to be here. Maybe, okay.
I've returned to dead air.
Yeah, so I thought Casey could talk while you were gone, but Casey doesn't seem to be here. So what were you saying?
I'm hearing my voice echo back. Do I really sound that manly?
I'm not going to answer that, and I'm just going to let you talk.
I totally left that open to you to give me an honest answer. I'm not going to be offended if I ask a question.
You don't sound completely non-manly.
Okay.
But I don't know what it sounds like but I don't know what it sounds like from your end. So, you know, it could be some weird, creepy robot voice that sounds like Darth Vader because, like, you know, like, but I don't know. So anyhow, I'm gonna mute myself. Say what you were gonna say while I'm eating.
I can't remember what I was gonna say. I got distracted by my manly voice.
Oh, okay. Well,
damn it! I hate getting stoned.
So Antifa, I don't know. The Antifa is the product of all of this, like all these cultural messages that you know, they sent out, and it trickles down and it trickles down, and then there's all these people that think all this crap, and then they're like, well, we have all these people that think all this stuff. We can't deprogram them. How are we going to lead them in what direction? In what direction do they leave it?
That's both Antifa and, to an extent, Black Lives Matter. It's like since the 80s, Saturday morning cartoons have been all about like teaching diversity and teaching inclusion. Like I can't think of a single Saturday morning cartoon that had nothing but white kids. Like every cartoon that I can think of when I was growing up that starred human characters had at least one of every race represented.
Mm-hmm.
So our generation, possibly the generation, like our older siblings or the generation before us, have been inundated our entire lives with the idea that racist exists everywhere, vigilant all the time, and look out for them and fight them when you see them. But because that's been an aspect of our culture for so long, racism doesn't have the power that it used to. So organizations like the Klan, the neo-Nazis, they're in their death throes, and powerful racist organizations are almost a thing of the past. There is really no enemy left to fight, but they're still fighting this war as if their enemy is at their gate.
Yeah. Well, and no, and even worse than that, they're turned into the bullies. You know, it's not even like, oh, you're a racist. It's more like, oh, you're white and we feel like picking on you today because we're bored and we're going to find a way to call you racist.
Where's this echo coming from?
Sorry about that.
Oh, I don't know why. Casey, are you hearing an echo?
Yeah, that's probably me.
No, it might be here. I'm going to turn down my headset because it might be feeding back through my. Okay, talk.
Hey.
Talk again, you guys. Oh, Lyra, talk.
Hello.
Can you hear?
I heard both my voice and the echo.
Oh, okay. It's probably not that then. But the thing is, yeah, you're right about there's been this like long.
I don't hear the echo anymore. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that got it.
Hey, try yelling and see if you hear it.
Hello. Yeah, I do still hear it.
But only when it's loud. It might be my headset. Oh no, now I feel stupid. Okay, so the thing is, there's been this really, really, really long, you know, anti-racist sentiment, and the people who are, you know, up through their 30s are now their entire reality and basis of morality. The last thing that people want to be is a bigot. Nobody wants to be racist against racial minorities or sexist against women, or transphobic or anti-gay, unless, of course, it's the wrong type of one of those people, and then it's fine. And that's been present. And then the people that they were giving money to make all this happen are like these crazy communists, and now Antifa is just sort of this group of people who have been so completely conditioned to be relatively insane because they thought it was going to keep getting the Democratic Party votes, and they can't deprogramming these people because I think it's just impossible. That and they how do I say it? It's like it's sort of taken a life of its own, and it does have some leadership, but they still think it's a good idea.
Like I'm still echoing, aren't I? But it's like they're in the step between a cult and a religion, but they're not really a religious organization.
Well, it's the same mentality. That's what kind of scares me about them.
Well, and they very systematically try to separate people from other people. And okay, so I have somebody that I've known since middle school has gotten caught up in Antifa, and it's bad. It's bad.
I'm gonna sign out and sign back in and see if that takes care of my echoing problem.
Right. Well, I'm not hearing it.
I'm still hearing it.
Is it me?
Huh.
You're echoing as well, and Prince is not.
Yeah, let's turn it down. Is that better?
I can still hear it. What about people in the chat? Can they still hear it?
Yeah, type 1 if you can hear the echo.
Give it a second.
Oh, they say that they're both echoing.
Well, that was a few minutes ago.
Oh. Huh. I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
They say only a little.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what to do with it, so.
Wait, let me see.
Apparently, only I'm echoing now.
Oh, okay. Well.
So let me sign out and sign in and see if that helps.
All right.
Okay.
But no, yeah, the Antifa thing.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, keep talking. I'm going to mute myself because I want to get a glass of water.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, the Antifa thing kind of freaks me out just because it's sort of a sort of this weird religious thinking with them. They're incapable of actually having a rational debate, which is, I think that's what separates them from a lot of the. I think they were talking about this earlier, but the real separation.
How about now?
Oh yeah, hello.
Hey, no more echo.
Cool. Hey, but I have to ask you something. Do you think that the because you guys were talking about the waves of political correctness earlier, do you think this one is different because of Antifa? I have a working theory.
This one is much more violent.
Yeah, because I remember looking back at old clips.
But honestly, I think that everything is real. Like overall violence has gone down over this last decade, but I think that the quality of violence has
Increased.
yes. And I hate to make it use those terms, but it's the best way that I can do it.
Well, yeah.
Like during the Occupy protest, like we were proud that we modeled our protest off of Mahatma Gandhi.
Mm. Yeah.
But now, like the point of pride is honestly, it's modeling your protest off of Mussolini.
Yeah, they're literal black shirts, which I find very funny. Like they don't really get what they're doing.
Like well, that was the same problem with Occupy too. Nobody got what they were doing. And
Yeah.
Occupy didn't even really get what we were doing. And I don't think Antifa really gets what they're doing.
Well, I think the thing with Antifa is that I think that you've got a lot of kids because it's mostly there's a lot of kids there.
Like one of the comments that I made in a Facebook conversation earlier today is that World War II was won by the military-industrial complex, not some prepubescent shithead and a black hoodie in their parents' basement.
Yeah, I mean the issue that I have with them right now is that they're young kids and they're still very impressionable, which is why I get really incensed with the education system right now, because I know some of these professors that are like this, that are like the Eric Clantons, and they're allowed to stay. That's what is mind blowing to me. And this is my prejudice against this is where the prejudice against fucking unions come in, because our teachers union is fucking shit at outing these people. They keep protecting them.
Are you a teacher?
I'm a TA. I was a TA for a while and I just quit, and because I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Because when I was actually considering being a high school history teacher when I was in high school, and before I realized that I was trans and my life fell apart, and I realized that nobody would hire a trans teacher in public schools.
Yeah, I mean it's like, one of those. Yeah,
I have a lot of respect for the profession.
I do too, but I'm not trying to. I hate shitting on teachers because at the end of the day, they're there to teach the curriculum.
Yes,
and
they're forced to be there to teach the curriculum a lot of the times. Yeah. Most of the teachers that I've developed friendships with complain about that same thing all the time, that they are forced to teach untruth.
Yeah, well, yeah, not only just untruth, but they're forced to deal with their coworkers who are fucking ideologues. They're especially in fucking college.
Yes, I was about to say it, especially at the university level.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that you're going to start seeing a lot less people enrolling in 4-year degree programs.
And the thing is, I'm about to try and enroll in a 4-year degree program.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to enroll in a 2-year degree program first, but I'm about to enter into this world, and I'm actually pretty confident that I will be okay in it, but that's simply because of identity politics, and I'm a trans woman.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to openly hostilely reject me because of that.
Well, I keep saying this to people, especially because I had an interaction. The last class I'm taking at my school, because I'm going to get my degree this semester, is in acting. So I had to take a elective or some shit. So I just did that, and it's in the arts building. And of course, there had to be a feminist. I don't know, rally. I don't know what would you call this, a mob. And they were spotting off shit about like, oh, you know, our education system privileges men, and I'm like, what?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And
that is objectively wrong.
well,
In
yeah,
fact, our educational system hasn't favored men since somewhere around the mid 80s.
yeah, and I pointed that out to them.
Actually, I think it's more like the 70s. That
I would say that it was starting in the 70s, but during the 70s academia, it was still controlled by the boys' club.
Yeah, probably. But I think that in the West, women started being more likely to be enrolled in universities in the 70s. But regardless, I'll keep going.
Well, the issue that I'm starting to see, and the issue that I told them is, you're starting to see less guys wanting to go to college, and these are the guys. And I know people are gonna hate to say this, but a lot of you're gonna need a large portion of the male population to go to college.
Well, it's not that guys are not.
That.
It's not that guys are not wanting to go to college. I mentioned my friend Adam earlier. The reason he did not go to college right after high school is he ended up having a kid. He couldn't afford to go to college. I think his wife at that time was going to college while he was like working to take care of her and the kid, and they ended up separating, and I don't know the whole story.
Yeah, well, here's my issue too, and this goes to my big critique of the educational culture, at least for now, is that we've really put college on a pedestal. And I'm saying, and I want to, it's kind of cliche.
Yeah, you don't really need college to participate in the world. You need to
have an education.
Yes, you need to have an education, but in our society, the education is not what matters. It is the certificate that comes with completing school.
Yes.
It's not even just that. Can I just realize? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not even so much just that. It's that because the certificate it's definitely necessary for a lot of jobs. Like it says on the application, it says on Craigslist, must have, BA or whatever. But it the thing that I think that the piece of paper really means to most of those companies that say that, it's because these aren't like even particularly these are like call service jobs, like call center jobs. Like customer service position must have BA, and it's and what I think that it really means largely is that they think that if a student has graduated from a university, they have been taught the politically correct social etiquette that a person's supposed to know in order to be a polite seeming member of society. If somebody has graduated from university, they are going to be very much not so likely to upset the customers.
Well, yeah. Well, think of the mentality behind that. What you just said, though. Like, just you're not hiring the most qualified person. You're hiring the most agreeable person.
Yeah,
that's fucking amazing to me. That's out there to me as a concept. And here's another thing. The reason I really get down on the mentality that we have about colleges is because I see these guys who, are smart people, but they just it's a lack of desire to actually go, and it's more of my parents are forcing me to go. And I just don't want to deal with it anymore, because here's the issue now. This stuff that used to be contained in a university is starting to leak out into high school, into middle school. This crap we're seeing, this ANTIFA stuff, it's starting to leak out there.
There's a friend of mine, Matthew Smith. He's another YouTuber that's appeared on Prince's channel before.
Matthew C.
Yeah, Matthew C.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's appeared on the channel here before, and he's always like complaining about what's going on in his high school and in the colleges that he's checking out.
Oh yeah, dude, it's an issue. I mean, look. You guys know who Yvette Falarca is, right? I know Prince does.
Yeah, I actually kind of know who Yvette Falarca is too. I've run into her.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Like I've run into her in San Francisco.
You poor person. You poor person.
I don't know. I'm kind of jealous.
No, I'm not. No, because okay, in any functioning system, that chick would have had her teaching license.
Yes, and the bike lock bandit.
That fucker got thrown in jail though. Good on
did?
Yeah,
Okay.
He's gone.
Did he get his job back after he got out?
No.
Was he charged with a felony?
He got charged with a felony. He's still in.
Good.
His parents didn't post bail. No one posted bail for him.
Good.
Yeah. So justice served on that point. But the issue,
like the last I saw of him, he was giving an interview on like late night talk.
No, no one bought it. Go look at those. Go look at the ones that aren't pussies that put up their comments and watch everyone just tear into him. I know the interview you're talking about, and people were just laying into him before they shut it down, before they shut down the comments.
Good.
And here's the issue, though. The issue with Yvette Falarca is that you guys, she has been thrown under the bus by a lot of her colleagues, saying that this bitch is nuts. We want her gone. But the issue,
and she's like a civics teacher.
Oh yeah, she's a middle school teacher. This is not a
she teaches like middle school civics.
I think the thing that's going on in her case, and this is sort of the weird, a lot of people want to think that the mayor's in on it, blah 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 blah, and he is to a certain degree, but
I don't think that he's in on it, but he is willfully ignorant.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, no, I think it goes beyond willful ignorance. But
he's close with
Shanta Driver.
Yeah. Shanta Driver scares the shit out of me.
Yeah,
she's a fucking lawyer. Yvette Falarca is her pit bull, but fucking the Shanta Driver scare the shit out of me as a lawyer, because she has an air of legitimacy because she has her lawyer's degree. Yeah, that scares me.
He has that.
And Yvette's also way too aggressive to be taken seriously in conversation.
She's a fucking gift dog.
You get Yvette out there to fight for you. You don't get Yvette out there to speak for you.
No, it's a terrible. Well, I'm not giving them any more tactics. Fuck those guys. But
these are already the tactics
I
that
know.
we're using. We're just analyzing.
Yeah, I know. But it's the other issue I have, just because I really want to hammer home my issue with Yvette Falarca, because I was looking through some old footage of her on YouTube. She has a huge catalog of back shit.
Oh no.
On YouTube, and so they decided to do something about her a couple like a year or so ago. They tried to get her out. The teachers had enough, and she brought in her students to be a character witness, and the shit those kids were saying, I'm like, oh fuck, it's a new generation of these people already. They just breed them.
Yeah.
Is that just California?
No, it's like that in Seattle too. I mean, okay, yes and no. We have shit like that. Like I was being groomed to be one of these kids, kind of, in Seattle, Washington. When I was in the 8th grade, we had a protest at my. This would out me if anybody, but not really. But kind of some personal details. I was in the 8th grade, and we had a protest called Skirt Fest. And Skirt Fest.
That sounds so bad.
It's Skirt Fest happened because a few boys were suspended for wearing skirts at school, which I don't. And the funny thing, they were friends of mine. Like, I mean, I remember the one guy. It was Peter Butner. Oh wait, God, I shouldn't have said his name. But he was a straight dude. Like, he was not gay, and like he's somebody that I can rest pretty positive was definitely straight. I think he actually like fucked a girl in middle school, because he like developed. He you know, he was one of the first. Okay, if everybody remembers middle school, the first guy to grow an Adam's apple tends to all the girls have a crush on him. You know?
When I was in middle school, there was this guy that in 7th grade, he was 5'9" and could grow a full goatee.
Yeah, so this Peter guy, he got his Adam's apple and his voice dropped, and a number of the girls he was a little bit cute, like I could see it. And he just gave no fucks, like, to be honest. Like he wasn't a particularly smart dude. He was kind of my friend. I had like shop class with him, and he was a nice guy. And I think I remember him saying that he was bisexual, and maybe he like made out with a dude in the hallway, but he was really just doing it because he gave no fucks.
And back then you could gain points by claiming to be bisexual.
Yeah, because it was the 90s.
Especially if you were a bisexual boy, because every girl was bisexual in the 90s. It didn't really mean anything.
I'm glad I didn't grow up like in the 90s, really. I'm glad I was sticking with cartoons, because this sounds like just...
Yeah. Like, honestly, in the 90s, being bi was equivalent to being a transgender today.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was pretty similar. So this guy was kind of like that, and so he decided to wear a skirt to school for one day, and he got suspended. And I think some other guy did it too, and I'm pretty positive they were both straight, because like it was not, except like my middle school was about 80% black, and if you actually acted gay, you got picked on a lot. But he very much didn't actually act gay, you know, like he didn't actually seem like he was gay. Whereas I did, of course, you know, so I wasn't thinking I was gonna like wear a skirt. So then what happened was there was some...
No offense, Prince, but I would not want to see you in a skirt.
I don't do super well when I do drag.
No, you look good in a black suit.
Thanks. So okay, so then what happened was word got through the grapevine that some boys had been suspended for wearing skirts. You know, like some girl told her sister or some crap like that. And there was an organization called the Seattle Young People's Project. And I ended up going to meetings, and they were an activist, and this was a funded thing. And I don't know where the fuck they got their fucking money, to be perfectly honest. Like, I don't know where it came from, if it came from charity donors or if they got direct government money or both. But it was this thing that was probably about a 15, 20-minute walk from my middle school and from the closest local high school. And they had an office, and it was some sort of a nonprofit organization, and they had young people of color, queer youth, and homeless youth activism that was all coming out of this one little office, and there was different interns that worked for it. And so they organized a big protest at my middle school called Skirt Fest. And from there, they kind of did like outreach to getting more students involved in their little activist center. And I was one of the kids that they kind of outreached to as a result of that protest. And I started attending Queer Youth Rights because it was it was a social thing to do for being a queer youth. I came out when I was 14, you know? But there was definitely an element of kind of a very specific political agenda that was going along with it. And I was never susceptible to it, you know, like I was always a very kind of a contrarian skeptic, like my whole life. It was just like, when you're 14, you only have so many options of ways to meet other LGBT people. And you feel like it's a necessity to have LGBT friends to a certain degree.
Well, if you live in a liberal town, I could see how that was true. But I like where I was growing up, I didn't think that there were any other like queer teenagers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, total. Yeah. So, but you know, if you feel like you have the option of finding queer teenagers, you'll probably do it. You know, and that was what I sort of did. But at the same time, I was kind of like, some of these people are weird. I didn't really like it. Oh, Casey, I'm gonna mute you because you're making a lot of noise. Oh, now you're not. Okay, I'm not gonna mute you.
Sorry about that.
So, the thing is, there was a very much kind of a like. Oh, I'm gonna mute you now. Okay, so there was kind of a like intersectional feminist element to all of it, but
I don't mean to cut you off right here, but I'm actually gonna go to bed anyways. So I just want to say,
yeah, I'm gonna be going. I'm gonna be going to bed soon too myself.
So
okay.
So night, guys.
Good night. Yeah.
But yeah, we probably should wrap this up.
No, yeah. That's cool. Actually that's cool. I was thinking about ending sometime anyway. But yeah, I wanted to say like it just about this place. It did have this sort of like intersectional feminist blah 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 blah. Like these radical leftist ideologue things that have embedded themselves firmly into culture in places like the Bay Area. They also exist in Seattle, and they've been there for a long time, is the point.
Yeah, I honestly I hadn't seen Antifa since until I moved to the West Coast. Like it wasn't really a thing on the East Coast when I was there. At least not that I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
But so like to my experience, it's been a West Coast phenomenon, but I know that has rapidly changed. And maybe the next time we get onto a live stream, we can talk about like maybe how this even now now that Antifa is seemingly quietening down, there is still the like air of violence that they've brought to this country that really does need to be addressed.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Everybody in the chat, it was nice having you here. Prince, it was nice to hear from you again. And good night, everyone.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got distracted with something on.
Yeah, which is why I was going ahead and taking over the wrapping up of the video for you.
Sorry. Great. Yeah, it was great talking to you. Thanks for the 7 people. We had up to I think 14, 15.
The most I saw was 17 at one point.
Oh, sweet.
Like I posted a link to it in one of the transgender discussion groups that I'm in, hoping to drum up some support, but I'm not sure if that worked.
Well, you know, thanks a bunch.
But, yeah, I'll talk to you later, okay?
Talk to you later.
Bye.